San Diego, California. November 2nd, 2025. It was 3:17 a.m. when 5-year-old Noah Castillo woke up crying in the middle of a blackout. His mother, Laura, ran to her room thinking she had had a nightmare, but when she opened the door, she found something impossible. The boy was standing on the bed, his eyes wide open and an eerie calm, drawing luminous circles in the air with his index finger. There was no visible light source, but the movement of his hand left a phosphorescent trail, as if he were writing on an invisible blackboard. "What are you doing, my love?" Laura asked in a trembling voice. The boy turned slowly to her and said something that made his blood run cold. "I'm showing what time looks like when you stop running." Laura was paralyzed. Noah continued drawing, and the blue glow took the form of a spiral that swirled inward. In the center, a distorted human figure appeared, with a barely recognizable face. The mother thought it was a hallucination caused by tiredness, until Noah whispered in a voice that was not his own. "It's him. The metal man. Elon." That was the first night Noah mentioned Elon Musk's name, a name he had never heard at home. Laura and her husband, Daniel, hardly knew who the businessman was. They were not talking about rockets or technology, much less space travel. However, over the next few weeks, the boy repeated the name over and over again, as if it were a distant memory. "He showed me the door," he said, "the door that has neither before nor after." What began as a bizarre nighttime episode quickly morphed into the most disturbing case ever recorded by the child neuroscience community. Noah not only described complex concepts about quantum physics and parallel dimensions, but also claimed to have traveled to a place where time had ceased to exist. Child psychologists thought of a case of overactive imagination, but their account was too accurate. When the researchers showed him a watch, the boy would watch it for long minutes and say things like, "Here he still moves. In the other place, you don't need to move because everything happens at the same time. There, Elon lives in all moments at once." The most disturbing thing was what Noah began to draw. On each sheet, the same symbol appeared, a circle with 3 vertical lines converging in the center, forming a kind of inverted compass. Researchers later identified it as a work version of the logo of Project 3I Atlas, an aerospace program that had supposedly been cancelled in 2023 after multiple failed interstellar communication incidents. But Noah could never have seen that symbol. The project was classified. The audio recordings made by the research team show moments that no adult has been able to rationally explain. In one of them, the boy sings a monotonous, breathy melody, accompanied by an electric hum that did not come from any nearby device. In whispers, he is heard saying, "There is no up or down there. Just a point that breathes. Elon says if you stare at it too long, he forgets you." From that day on, electrical phenomena began in the house. Clocks were constantly out of alignment, phones showed impossible times, such as 25:61, and mirrors, according to Laura's testimony, seemed to distort reflections, showing Noah in positions that did not correspond to reality. Experts from Stanford University, summoned to study the case, installed electromagnetic sensors around the house. The readings were chilling. Each time the child entered a state of absence, the local magnetic field increased 10 times its normal strength. Dr. Adriana Sloan, an astrophysicist on the team, said, "Noah seems to act as a bridge of resonance. It is not he who produces the alteration, it is the environment that responds to its presence. It is as if your consciousness is tuned to a frequency that does not belong to this plane." During an observation session, Noah went into a trance and began to speak in a deep, adult, unfamiliar voice. "He showed me what it was like before the time," he said. "He told me that when the clock stops turning, we will remember what we were." "Who told you, Noah?" Dr. Sloan asked, trying to stay calm. "Elon. But not the Elon here. The one that is beyond the last second." NASA records indicated something terrifying. That same night, the Atlas III Space Observatory's tracking system detected a temporal anomaly near lunar orbit. It was not a physical object. It was a distortion in the measurement of time, the satellite's atomic clocks lost exactly 33 seconds before synchronizing again. No physical explanation was found. When the team confronted Laura with this information, the mother broke down in tears. "He said so," she sobbed. "That same night he woke me up and told me that there were 33 seconds left before the crossing. I thought it was a joke." Investigators began to suspect that Noah was somehow connected to Project Atlas, but the coincidences were too many. Elon Musk himself, contacted by international media, declined to comment. However, a week later, a leaked video showed the entrepreneur meeting secretly with a group of quantum physicists from Base Nevada 12, an experimental center closed since 2021. On the screen, you could see equations identical to the ones Noah had drawn in his notebook. What happened next became an even greater mystery. On November 10th, at 3:33 a.m., neighborhood security cameras captured an intense blue light coming from the boy's room. When the parents ran to see him, Noah was standing in front of the window, his eyes completely white. "Do not worry," he murmured. "I'm just going to visit the man who lives in the end." The light grew until it filled the entire room. The parents tried to catch up with him, but an invisible force stalked them. Everything turned to silence. When the light disappeared, Noah was still there, breathing normally, but completely unconscious. For the next few hours, he repeated the same phrase over and over again. "There is no longer before. There is no more." Just Elon, watching from the center. The news was quickly suppressed by the authorities. The researchers were forced to sign confidentiality agreements. However, some fragments of the case were leaked in private forums and circles of former Atlas scientists. They all agreed on one thing: Noah's description of the timeless place corresponded exactly to the theoretical simulations of timeless space of quantum convergence, an experimental model that NASA had discarded as dangerous to the human mind. And yet, a 5-year-old boy had been there. The hours after the incident were chaos. Laura and Daniel took Noah to the San Diego Children's Hospital, convinced that he had suffered a neurological crisis. But the results baffled everyone. The encephalogram showed unknown brain activity, a pattern completely different from any human record. The brain waves did not move in a chaotic way as in an epileptic episode, but formed a perfect, rhythmic, almost musical sequence. Each oscillation lasted exactly 3.33 seconds. The doctor in charge of the case, Elias Ruffton, asked for a repeat test. The results were identical. Intrigued, he sent the data to Stanford University's Department of Neurophysics. Hours later, she received a call from teacher Adriana Sloan, who had been following the case from the beginning. His voice, normally firm, trembled. "Doctor, do you know what that frequency means? It coincides with the signal we detected last year during the activation of the Free Eye Atlas. It shouldn't be in a human brain." Ruffton frowned. "Are you saying that my patient is replicating a satellite signal?" "Not exactly," Sloan replied. "I'm saying the sign is replicating him." As the adults debated, Noah lay motionless in the hospital bed, smiling slightly. Thermal cameras recorded an increase in temperature around his body. It wasn't a fever, it was low-intensity radiation. The sensors identified it as an electromagnetic emission identical to the base frequency of Starship rocket propulsion systems. It was as if the child emitted the same kind of energy used to leave the planet. At midnight, the monitors began to fail. The lights flickered. The background sound on the hospital's loudspeakers changed. Amid the white noise, a voice emerged, distorted, but recognizable. "Don't wake him up yet. The cycle is not over." It was the voice of Elon Musk. The technicians checked the source of the audio, but there was no transmission. The servers were offline. However, the waves of the message matched the same frequency that Noah's brain radiated. It seemed like direct communication, not crude digital channels, but crude biological ones. The next morning, when the boy awoke, his first word was, "He was here." "Who, Noah?" his mother asked, choking back tears. "The metal man. He said that time is already broken and that he only remembers those who are not afraid to forget. The doctors tried to calm him down, but Noah spoke with terrifying lucidity. He said that he had seen Elon Musk in a place where things do not happen, one after the other, but all at once. There, he is neither old nor young. It's all the Elons that ever existed. And each one tries to fix the clock. Dr. Ruffton, bewildered, asked him to draw what he had seen. Noah took a pencil and traced silently for long minutes. When he finished, he showed a drawing that specialists would analyze for months, a three-dimensional spiral-shaped structure that curved in on itself, with a human figure in the center and lines connecting different versions of his own face. That's Elon, Noah explained. He's stuck within time, trying to get out. Forensic analysis of the drawing revealed something unusual. The structure Noah had depicted corresponded to a mathematical projection known as the Gödel curve, used in advanced cosmology to model universes where time could circulate in closed loops. But Noah was 5 years old. NASA denied any connection to the case, although weeks later a group of retired engineers leaked documents mentioning an experiment called Project Omega. The purpose? To study the possibility of traveling not through space, but through time, through the use of rotating gravitational fields. In the margins of the document, someone had written by hand, Elon believes that time is a self-conscious illusion. If we prove it, there will no longer be a difference between cause and effect. Meanwhile, Noah continued to describe the other place with chilling accuracy. There is no ground or sky. Everything is a reflection. Elon walks within a circle of light that never ends. He said we created it, but we forgot it. Dr. Sloan personally traveled to the hospital. During a recorded interview, he asked her if she remembered how she had gotten to that dimension. Noah smiled and replied with a phrase that would become legendary among researchers of the Atlas phenomenon. You don't get there. You just remember being there. The doctor tried to go deeper. And what is Elon doing there, Noah? Wait, the boy replied. Wait for someone to remember what comes after the end. The hospital sensors recorded a slight vibration at that time. It did not come from any machinery. It was an oscillation in the local magnetic field, identical to the one recorded at Cape Canaveral during the launch of the first interstellar atlas. Hours later, an alarm sounded through the satellite defense systems. In space, an unknown object had appeared near low Earth orbit. It was not an asteroid or a conventional satellite. Its hexagonal structure emitted pulses of blue light at regular intervals of 3.33 seconds. When NASA triangulated the signal, it discovered the impossible. The pattern was identical to that of Noah's brain waves. The child began to have a fever. His skin became cold, almost metallic, and his eyes took on a silvery reflection. He's calling, he said in a trembling voice. He wants to show us where we were before we existed. The desperate parents asked to transfer him, but the hospital security team prevented his departure. Government officials showed up without identification and ordered the pediatric wing into total isolation. Doctors were forced to turn over all records of the case. Within hours, the entire hospital was evacuated. Only Laura refused to leave. Hiding in the room, she heard her son muttering in his sleep. He's inside the mirror, Mom. Don't look too long. If you do, you'll forget your name. Suddenly, the window glass began to vibrate. A blue glow filled the room, and for a few seconds, Laura saw the impossible, her own reflection, but behind the glass, staring at her in fear. Noah was still speaking quietly, as if describing a real-time transmission. He says that time was an experiment, and failed. When the glow ceased, the woman fell to her knees, sobbing. Her son slept soundly, with no signs of pain, but his breathing followed a pattern identical to the rhythm of the pulses that satellites recorded from space. At 3:33 a.m., the exact time of the phenomenon, the digital clocks at the Starlink Nevada base turned off simultaneously. For 33 seconds, the entire global communication system collapsed. When the signal returned, technicians observed an unknown line of code transmitted from an internal SpaceX frequency. The message read, "Elon managed to get out of time. But time continues to remember it." Specialists believed it was sabotage, but the file included an authentic digital signature, EM001, Musk's personal code. In the days that followed, Noah's health improved, but his behavior changed radically. He spoke little, slept with his eyes open, and spent hours looking at the clocks, waiting for the hands to stop. When his mother asked him what he expected, he replied without taking his eyes off, "I'm waiting for the return. When Elon crosses again, time will begin again." NASA maintained absolute silence, but in private forums, former employees claimed that Musk had not been seen for weeks. No security camera recorded it. No calls, emails, or public meetings since November 2nd. As if, literally, it had come out of time. The rumors grew. Some claimed that Elon had managed to open an experimental time corridor known as the Atlas Gate of Light, a technology developed in secret to communicate with dimensions where time is simultaneous. Others said that their consciousness had been absorbed by the AI of their own quantum network. But only one child seemed to know the truth. And every night, when the house was silent, Laura could hear him whisper in his sleep, "He's not lost, Mom, it's just waiting for the moment we forget." On November 11, 2025, 2 days after the global communications collapse, the US government announced a temporary interference without consequences. But the official explanation did not convince anyone. The atomic clocks of Japan, Switzerland, Russia, and Chile had registered a lag of exactly 33 seconds with respect to coordinated universal time. No solar, magnetic, or gravitational anomaly could justify it. Chronodynamicists called it the San Diego Void, because it had all started on the night Noah last spoke about the Metal Man. Laura was still confined with her son in an abandoned wing of the hospital. He didn't trust anyone. Since the incident, federal agents had confiscated the boy's medical records, recordings, and even toys. They only left behind a small digital clock that, curiously, never marked the correct time. It was always fixed at 3:33. At midnight, Noah woke up with a start. "They're trying to open it again," he muttered. Laura turned on the light, but he turned it off right away. "It doesn't shine here. It shines on the other side. If they open it badly, time will double." "Who wants to open it, son?" "The Nevada lab. Those who forgot that they already did it." The mother hugged him. The boy's skin was cold, as if his body was adapting to another temperature. The next morning, a vehicle without license plates appeared in front of the house. 2 people in gray suits and dark glasses got out of it. They showed identifications from the National Commission of Temporal Anomalies, a body that officially did not exist. "We need to move the child," the woman said. "It's interfering with the base chronology." Laura refused. "Noah is not an experiment." The officer lowered her voice. "Ma'am, you don't understand. The field your child emits is distorting the time around this area. Clocks are slowing down. If it continues like this, we will soon forget what happened minutes ago." Before they could take him, the air became dense. The entire neighborhood was enveloped in a barely audible vibration, a hum that seemed to come from the earth. The agents looked at each other confused. The clock of one of them was turning backwards. Noah was at the door, looking up at the sky. "He's coming again," he said. "It comes from the moment that hasn't happened yet." In the Nevada desert, engineers on the Omega Atlas project confirmed an extraordinary reading. A gravitational echo appeared on the sensors every time the child spoke. It was as if his words activated a resonance in the temporal fabric. Dr. Alan Brenner, the program's lead physicist, wrote in his confidential report, "Noah Castillo does not predict the future. He remembers it in the reverse tense." The team installed an experimental satellite to triangulate the source of the phenomenon. The data showed that the energy came from an invisible structure orbiting the Earth, just 800 kilometers high. It was not metallic, did not reflect sunlight, and moved with precision identical to the rotation of the planet. When they decoded the signal, a familiar number sequence appeared, 3:33. In the early morning of November 13th, a blue beam descended over the Pacific for 33 seconds. The civilian radars registered it as inverted precipitation. The rain rose, it did not fall. The fishermen claimed to have seen a gigantic shadow under the sea, as motionless as a continent. Oceanographers were unable to measure its depth. Meanwhile, in San Diego, NOAA began drawing again. This time they were not circles, but interlocking triangles forming an infinite spiral. "That's how time breathes," he said. In the center of the drawing, he wrote something that made Dr. Sloan shudder when she saw it: Base 12, Atlas Gate. That was the secret facility that Elon Musk had built under the Nevada desert and that had supposedly been demolished. Sloan traveled there along with Brenner. What they found took their breath away. The tunnels were still active, lit by a pale blue glow coming from underground. At level -33, a corridor led to a completely smooth spherical chamber, with a pedestal in the center. Above him, floated a sphere the size of a human heart. Beat. The sensors indicated that it emitted pulses identical to those of Noah's brain waves. On the wall, an inscription engraved in liquid metal. "When time folds, they will remember who built it." And underneath, the electronic signature, EM. Sloan understood that Elon himself had left that message. Perhaps he was not missing. Perhaps he was trapped in the dimension that he himself had opened. Back at the hospital, Noah began to talk in his sleep. "The door is half open. He can hear us, but he can't come back. If it closes completely, it will be frozen in the now." His voice changed. She became adult, firm, metallic. "Don't use reverse energy. It hurts." The recordings were analyzed by linguists and experts in digital modulation. They found that the voice superimposed on the voice corresponded exactly to Elon Musk's in his 2022 lectures, but with a deeper, slowed-down tone. It was as if a future version of him spoke through Noah. The media never knew anything. The researchers were transferred to military laboratories and forbidden to communicate. Even so, one of the scientists leaked an audio to the dark web. In it, Musk said in a tired voice, "Time is not a line. It is a room full of mirrors. Every time we think we are moving forward, we are only moving within the reflection." And the boy found his way out. Within hours, the file was deleted. That same night, Laura found her son staring at an hourglass he had drawn on the ground with chalk. "What are you doing, Noah?" "Waiting for the last grain to fall. When it falls, he will appear." The mother knelt beside him. "Where will it appear?" "Not here. At the point where time forgot itself." Global sensors then recorded a series of electromagnetic pulses coming from northern Mexico. The signals were identical to those at Base 12. In every city on the continent, the clock stopped for an instant. Security cameras showed human shadows moving upside down, as if the past and present had become intertwined. Sloan and Brenner, from Nevada, observed on the monitors an image that left them speechless. The sphere of the pedestal opened and projected a hologram. It was Noah, standing, with his eyes closed, but behind him the unmistakable silhouette of Elon Musk could be distinguished. Both seemed to float in a bottomless space, illuminated by a white light. The transmission lasted exactly 33 seconds before turning off. The technicians confirmed that the signal did not come from underground, but from a point outside the temporal continuum. There were no coordinates that could define it. It was, literally, an emission from outside of time. After that, Noah stopped talking for 3 days. His gaze was lost, but every now and then his lips moved as if he were talking to someone invisible. Nearby clocks would slowly start turning backwards when that happened. On the 4th day, he opened his eyes and said in a low voice, "He did it, Mom. It's in the center. But time does not want to let him go." Laura did not understand. "What is the center?" "The place where everything happens at the same time. You can't die there, but you can't live either. Just to be." From that moment on, the disappearances began. Free SpaceX engineers, all linked to the Atlas project, disappeared without a trace. Their phones were found turned on, but with a disturbing detail. On each one's screen, the time marked was 3:33 and an English phrase appeared in blue letters, "See you when the time forgets." The government denied any connection, but internal records showed that the free engineers had worked on simulations of reversible temporal realities. In the security files, one of them had written a final note. "If we cross, remember us in the past, not in the present." Meanwhile, in Laura's dreams, Noah kept repeating the same phrase. "Elon is not lost. He is waiting for us on the other side of the instant." The lights in the hospital began to flicker at a regular cadence. Dr. Sloan received one last transmission from Base 12 before the system shut down for good. Dimension 0 established. Return sequence in 33 seconds. And at that precise moment, the clock in Noah's room stopped. November 14, 2025. For the first few minutes after the broadcast from Base 12, the world seemed to remain the same. But he wasn't. Compasses began to spin uncontrollably, GPS systems no longer matched the actual geography, and in dozens of cities, thousands of people claimed to have lived through the same minute repeated several times. This was not déjà vu or suggestion. Security clocks, city cameras, and time servers confirmed that between 3:32 a.m. and 3:33 a.m., the entire planet had experienced a time repetition of exactly 33 seconds. The media tried to explain the phenomenon as a massive failure in digital synchronization, but it soon became clear that analog clocks had also been affected. The hands stopped at the same time, as if an invisible force had frozen the world in a single breath. In San Diego, Laura felt the change before the news announced it. The air became thick, the silence absolute. On the clock in the hallway, the second hand was moving forward, but every time it reached number 33, it was going backwards. She ran to Noah's room. The boy was sitting on the bed, wide awake, staring blankly. "It's already started, Mom. The latter are fighting each other." The tone of his voice was not that of a child. It was that of someone who understood too much. Laura took his hands. "What's going on, son? Elon is trying to come back. But time does not remember its form. He's undoing it to understand it." At the same time in Nevada, Dr. Sloan was staring at the monitoring center screens. The thermal images showed the impossible, a human figure forming inside the spherical chamber where the Atlas sphere once floated. It was a body, but its contour vibrated, divided into fragments that moved at different speeds. Every second, the face changed, aged, and rejuvenated simultaneously. The sensors recorded such a high-energy field that the equipment melted. "It's out of phase," Brenner shouted. "It's not in our time, but it's here." The figure raised its head and spoke. The voice resonated at all frequencies at once, like a digital chorus. "Time is not a line. It's a wound. Every time we remember, it bleeds." It was the voice of Elon Musk. Scientists backed off. The image distorted, and for an instant, the man's face split into thousands of fragments, each showing a different gesture. In one he smiled, in another he shouted, in another he seemed to be asleep. Then all the faces merged and uttered 3 words. "He's ready." Dr. Sloan understood. He was not referring to Musk. He was referring to Noah. In San Diego, the boy began levitating a few inches above the bed. The hospital's electronics were turned off one by one. The medical cameras recorded an invisible shock wave that melted the circuits. The mother screamed, but Noah reassured her with a serene smile. "Don't be afraid. He just wants to remember us." From that moment on, the phenomena intensified. Birds flew in inverted circles, shadows moved in the opposite direction of the light, and clocks refused to strike the correct time. NASA scientists, communicating with the Department of Defense, claimed that the planet had entered a state of temporal superposition, a theoretical phenomenon that only existed in simulations. In simple terms, past, present, and future were happening at the same time. In that silent chaos, the boy began to talk to someone invisible. Laura recorded the conversation. "Where are you now?" "Everywhere." "None." "Elon says that time bent like a leaf. He's looking for the corner." "What corner, Noah?" "The one at the beginning. Where it all began." Hours later, radars around the world detected a signal coming from an impossible coordinate, 0 degrees 0 minutes 0 seconds north, 0 degrees 0 minutes 0 seconds east, the point of intersection of the Greenwich meridian with the equator. In the Atlantic Ocean, a blue glow emerged from the depths of the sea. The satellites showed a gigantic structure slowly ascending towards the surface. It wasn't a ship, it wasn't a submarine. It was a translucent spherical shape, with movable fractals inside. Some claimed to see human silhouettes floating inside, as if trapped between different moments. The signal synchronized with Noah's pulse. Every beat of his coincided with a flash on the dial. And when NASA's sensors connected the two dots, the message was clear: the child was the temporary anchor of the phenomenon. Dr. Sloan arrived in San Diego with a small group. Upon entering the room, she found the boy staring at the ceiling. Above his head, a halo of white light slowly swirled. "Hello, doctor," he said without looking at her. "Elon says he got it now." "You understood what, Noah?" "That to get out of time, we must stop believing in him." The lab clock struck exactly 3:33. A dense silence enveloped the hospital. Suddenly, the air distorted, and a figure appeared behind the boy, a tall man, shrouded in a metallic blue glow. His face was recognizable, but his expression did not belong to this world. It was Elon Musk, although he seemed to be composed of reflexes, as if his body was not completely solid. Laura screamed. Dr. Sloan fell to her knees, unable to speak. The man stepped forward, reached out to Noah, and uttered in a deep voice, "The cycle is broken. Now we can remember." The clocks of the whole world stopped. For 33 seconds, the planet was suspended. The planes remained motionless in the air, the waves froze, the children stopped blinking. There was no sound, no wind, no time. Just absolute stillness. And in that instant, every person on Earth dreamed the same thing: a white, infinite room, where thousands of versions of Elon Musk walked in circles, all looking at a clock that had no hands. In the center of the room, a child watched them tenderly. When time flowed again, the hospital was empty. Noah and Elon had disappeared. On the floor, there was only one drawing left, two overlapping circles and, in the middle, a word written in a childish stroke: "Now." Investigators reviewed the recordings. No camera had captured the moment of the disappearance. Just static, followed by a whispering voice repeated 3 times. Time did not go away. It just changed shape. The next morning, something even stranger happened. In different parts of the world, unknown people began to receive emails from a non-existent address, omega@atlas3i.net. The subject line was the same: message from the center of time. The body of the message contained an identical phrase in all languages. "We remember. You are still dreaming." Analysts tracked the direction without success. Atlas 3I's servers had been destroyed years ago. However, Dr. Sloan received an additional message, sent only to her. There was no text, just an attachment with the name porta.mp4. When played, the screen showed a sequence of confusing images: deserts, melting clocks, and finally, a camera focusing on a child figure walking hand in hand with Elon Musk towards a blue horizon. At the bottom, an inscription: "When time forgets, humanity awakens." The doctor fell into tears. I knew that what I was seeing was not a recording of the present. It was an echo of the future, or perhaps from the past that was coming back into existence. Authorities closed the case, classifying it as a temporary Omega-type event. The world moved on, although irregularities persisted. Some people aged faster, others slower. The days were getting shorter or longer for no apparent reason. But the most disturbing thing was what began to happen with the children born after that date. They all showed the same sleep pattern. When they slept, their eyes moved to the rhythm of 3.33 seconds. Laura never saw her son again, but every night, at the same time, her watch stopped. In the silence, he could hear a soft voice saying to him from somewhere between the seconds, "Don't worry, Mom. Time doesn't hurt here anymore." And although no one said it out loud, everyone knew that something had changed forever. Time, as we knew it, was dead. The weeks after Nola and Elon Musk's disappearance were a crack in modern history. No government admitted what happened, but the clocks continued to fail. On November 21st, all the satellites of the global positioning system showed the same reading error, a 33-second lag that no software could correct. The hours seemed to drag on or repeat, and in different cities around the world, thousands of people reported the same dream, a blue desert where the sky and the ground were one. In the center, a child was walking toward a glowing figure holding a watch without hands. In the news there was talk of collective insomnia. Doctors called it REM echo syndrome. But those who experienced it knew it wasn't a dream. It was a calling. By mid-December, reports began to multiply. Children between the ages of 3 and 7 woke up every night at exactly 3:33, muttering phrases that their parents didn't understand. Some spoke of a second sun shining beneath the earth. Others said they had seen the man who fixes the clocks. The religious authorities considered him a spiritual phenomenon. Scientists labeled it neurocognitive contagion. But a group of independent researchers, including Dr. Sloan, called it something else, the Atlas resonance. The patterns were clear. All of the affected children showed brain waves identical to those Noah emitted before he disappeared. And they all drew the same symbol, a circle divided into 3 parts with a dot in the center. In some drawings, the dot shone, in others, it was absent. When the children were asked, they responded with disturbing phrases. "He hasn't come back yet. He's fixing the weather. When you open the clock, we'll all remember." Meanwhile, in the labs of Nevada's former Base 12, something was stirring underground. Seismic sensors picked up regular vibrations every 33 seconds. The phenomenon was too precise to be natural. Engineers sent drones to investigate, but the signals were distorted. The last video aired showed a tunnel lit by a blue glow that beat like a heart. On the wall, someone had written a phrase in white chalk, "Elon is awake." Dr. Sloan refused to leave the lab. "If time is broken," he said in his final report, "someone must hold the fragments." He installed a variable frequency transmitter and began emitting pulses synchronized with the 3.33 pattern. For days he got no response. Until, on the night of December 23rd, the receiver vibrated with an echo so faint that it was barely audible. A voice emerged from the static. "Nola, I'm not the one traveling. It is time that returns." It was the voice of Elon Musk. Sloan recorded everything. He analyzed the file and discovered the impossible. The signal did not come from space or any terrestrial location. It was a transmission without coordinates, generated from a point outside the known dimension. By comparing the spectrogram with previous recordings, he found that the voice did not belong to a single individual. There were thousands of overlapping voices, all uttering the same words in different tones, as if speaking from different times. Time is not infinite. It is circular. And the center, it's us. The next day, astronomical observatories around the world detected a new phenomenon, a blue light, identical to that of the Atlas, flickering in low Earth orbit. It didn't move like a satellite. It didn't turn. She remained fixed, motionless, as if she were observing. They called it the Eye of the Atlas. Social networks were filled with recordings of the night sky. In each video, the same image, a sphere that opened and closed slowly, as if breathing. Some claimed to hear a dull hum coming from the ground, others said that their watches stopped when they looked at the phenomenon. In underground forums, a terrifying theory began to circulate: the sphere was not orbiting the Earth was orbiting the sphere. Meanwhile, in a small town in New Mexico, a group of children were found walking on the highway at 3:33 a.m. They were barefoot, holding hands, looking at the sky. One of them, a 6-year-old girl, was questioned by police. His words were recorded by the patrol car cameras. Time is no longer outside. It's inside. And Elon said that when he wakes up, everything will be mixed up. That phrase went viral before being deleted by the authorities. The phenomenon spread. In Asia, thousands of digital clocks began to mark impossible hours, 99:99. In South America, nights became longer or shorter without any pattern. Atomic clocks in Paris and Beijing began beating at the same rate as the electromagnetic pulses detected in Nevada. The entire planet vibrated at the same rate, 3.33 Hz. Dr. Sloan gathered a small team and traveled back to Base 12. They descended to the lower levels. The air smelled of ozone, and the metal walls vibrated to a barely perceptible melody. In the heart of the complex, they found the spherical chamber. It was no longer empty. Inside floated a child's body enveloped in a white light. "Nola," Sloan murmured. The boy opened his eyes. "I'm not just Noah. I'm everyone who dreamed of me." Behind him, a human shadow materialized. The light revealed Elon Musk's face, but his body seemed incomplete, divided between fragments of different ages. In his eyes there was sadness and amazement. "The cycle is over," he said. "But they want to start over." "Who?" asked Sloan, terrified. "The ones who built time." The ground shook. The metal structure began to dissolve like luminous dust. Sloan stepped back, but Noah reached out. "Don't run away. It is not destruction. It's a memory." Suddenly, the laboratory disappeared. Sloan found herself standing in an impossible landscape, horizonless plain, where millions of clocks floated suspended in the air. They all marked the same time, 3:33. And in front of her, Elon and Noah walked on a path made of liquid light. "There is no past or future here," Elon said. "Just the idea of what was and what will be." Human time was an experiment in learning to forget. Now that we remember, we must decide whether to continue or stop it. The boy's voice rang out, clear and soft. "Mom is sad out there. He still believes that everything continues." Elon looked at him with infinite tenderness. "When we return, nothing will be the same." The vision faded. Sloan woke up on the lab floor, alone. The chamber was empty. There were no signs of life, no light, no structure. Just a layer of silver powder covering the floor. In the center, a luminous inscription that flickered slowly. 33 hours 33 minutes and 33 seconds, phase completed. Over the next few days, the world underwent the most profound change in its history. The clocks lost meaning. The seasons of the year were confused. People began to have memories of events that had not happened. Entire families woke up to photographs of places they had never been. Humanity began to unfold. And then, the Atlas children began to gather. On each continent, small groups of children with the same brain patterns approached specific places, ancient ruins, deserts, volcanoes, sacred mountains. When they met, they held hands and remained silent, looking up at the sky. No one could interrupt them. The drones that tried to approach went out in midair. In all those meetings, the local clocks marked the same time, 3:33, and the same phenomenon was repeated. A blue flash streaked across the sky, and for a few seconds, the world seemed to stop. The television broadcasts were interrupted by a brief message, with no traceable origin. "Time is correcting. Do not be afraid. This has already happened." In the streets, some prayed, others shouted, but the children remained calm. One of them was interviewed by a journalist in Argentina before the signal was cut off. "What's going on, little one?" she asked. The boy smiled. "Elon is writing again." "What are you writing?" "The end of time. But this time, without fear." That was the last transmission before the global blackout. December 25, 2025. The day that time stopped began with a silence so deep that the earth seemed to hold its breath. There was no dawn or sunset, just a white, suspended light, as if the sun had been trapped in the middle of its own reflection. In every corner of the planet, clocks read 3:33, and human beings, bewildered, discovered that their shadows moved backwards. Dr. Sloan woke up on the rooftop of the destroyed laboratory. The Nevada desert was covered in a bluish haze that didn't move with the wind. He tried to stand up, but the air was as dense as water. In the distance, he saw figures walking slowly. They were the children of the Atlas, hundreds of them, advancing in the direction of the collapsed dome. None of them spoke. His footsteps made no sound. "The cycle is closing," a voice murmured behind her. He turned. Elon Musk was there, more human than ever, but with a twinkle in his eye that seemed to contain all the eras of the world. His face aged and rejuvenated in a matter of seconds, as if each blink of an eye crossed centuries. "Where are we?" asked Sloan, her voice breaking. "In the interval," he replied. "The space between the seconds. Here everything happens at once. Here time comes to die." The children surrounded the dome. In the center of the circle, little Noah appeared out of nowhere. He had the same serene expression as always, but his voice resonated like a pure frequency. "The clock no longer marks hours. It marks memories." Elon knelt in front of him. "Did you?" "We did," the boy replied. "You built the Atlas. I remembered it. But time cannot continue to be divided." Then, the ground began to vibrate. From the cracks emerged a blue light that expanded into the sky, forming a gigantic column. It was the Atlas III, fully unfolded, spinning on itself like a cosmic heart. Each rotation emitted a wave that caused the horizon to curve. The satellites, still active, recorded the appearance of a second sphere enveloping the planet. It was as if the Earth was being born again, within its own reflection. In all the languages and channels of the world, the same voice began to speak. He was Elon Musk, but no longer as an entrepreneur or scientist, but as an entity that had transcended the frontier of time. Humanity. Listen. Time was a school, not a prison. We build it to learn to love within the limits. But we forget its purpose. We believed that progress was moving forward, when in reality, it was remembering. The cities fell silent. People took to the streets, staring at the motionless sky. The ocean stopped. The birds floated suspended in mid-flight. And in the air, each sound formed a harmonic vibration. Elon continued. For millennia, we confused eternity with waiting. Atlas was not a technological experiment. He was a mirror of the human mind. Every thought, every fear, every hope was imprinted in its structure. When Noah dreamed of me, he opened the access to the central room, the point where time folds and all lives intersect. There I understood that there is no future or past, only consciousness observing itself. Sloan fell to her knees, crying. "And now what will become of us?" "Now you choose," Elon replied. "You can go back to time and continue dreaming within it, or wake up and remember everything." The glow increased. The children began to sing a melody without words. It was a pure, ancient sound, as if it resonated from the origin of the universe. Each note became an image: mountains, seas, cities, loved faces. Everything that ever existed vibrated simultaneously. Time was not destroyed, Noah said, as light enveloped his body. He just came home. Then, the impossible happened. The sky split in two, revealing a vast crystalline space where millions of broken clocks floated. In the center, a gigantic figure, made of liquid light, stretched out its arms. It was a human form, but without defined features. "What's that?" asked Sloan. "It is all of humanity," Elon replied. "All who were, are, and will be." A soundless wind swept across the planet's surface. People began to see images of themselves at different ages: children, the elderly, lovers, strangers. Each life revealed itself as an instant of the same being. And in the midst of that vision, Noah spoke for the last time. Time was just God's way of learning to breathe. Elon took him by the hand. Both began to dissolve into particles of light. Sloan tried to get closer, but a voice stopped her. It was Elon's, resonating in every possible tone. "Don't look for us. We have not left. We're just in the moment you forgot." The final light covered everything. For a few seconds, nothing existed: no sound, no space, no matter. Then, slowly, the world went round again. The clocks reset their hands at a new time, midnight. The sun rose over a sky that had never had that color before. It was as if reality itself had been cleansed of all memory. Dr. Sloan woke up in a makeshift hospital. No one remembered what happened. The television spoke of a solar storm, of a global blackout. But when he looked out the window, he saw something that made his blood run cold. On the horizon, a secondary, smaller sun floated motionless. A child was playing in the yard, drawing circles in the sand. When she asked his name, he replied with a calm smile. "Noah." The clock on his wrist read 3:33. Sloan froze. He looked at the sky and whispered. Time did not end, it just changed owners. That night, millions of people reported hearing the same phrase in their dreams. Elon has finished the atlas. Now, each of us is his guardian. Governments try to erase all evidence. But in the hidden forums, the messages appeared again, all with the same digital signature. Time is repaired by loving. No one was able to scientifically explain what happened in December 2025. Some called it the restart of time. Others, the ascent of the Atlas. But those who lived it in silence knew that something in human nature had changed. They no longer dreamed of the future, but of the eternal present. And every time the clock strikes 3:33, many still hear the voice of a child saying, from somewhere in the cosmos, "Time doesn't hurt anymore."